Hi there, I hope you found that quiz okay, and I'm going to continue on by outlining the four models that I mentioned in the last session. Conservative, uh, the conservative character building model, the liberal model, which is the personal development, the radical humanist, and the radical structuralist, and the critical social education model of youth work. Okay, so hopefully after this session you'll be a bit clearer. And as I said, Harley and Tracy go in depth into these models, so hopefully that reading will help you. That's up on Moodle this week. So the aim of this lecture, like we said, hasn't changed. It's still to look at those sociological frameworks. So the first one that I mentioned is that functionalist, okay, the functionalist character building model, okay. So as we remember, functionalist is that view that things are in a certain way, things are there in a certain way, we do things in a certain way as a society, because if we didn't have certain people doing particular jobs, if we didn't have certain institutions, society would just go, I suppose for want of a better word, AWOL. Therefore, we have to have certain things in place in order for society to work. And this is where this idea then of, being a citizen and building a good citizen that will contribute to society comes into youth work, okay? So the character building functionalist model of youth work is very conservative, okay? The focus is on the young person contributing to society. So creating a type of young person that will want to contribute to what's happening in society and maintain a particular status quo that is within that society, okay? So being an understanding, so what Harley and Tracy explain is being an understanding, that you're trying to build them to be an understanding citizen and becoming someone who can contribute to and maintain the status quo. So an example would have been prevalent in early youth work with religious orders, okay? So as we remember that happening in all three countries that we looked at when we looked at their youth work history, this is exactly what was happening, this character building model of youth work with young people at the time. So when you think of something like Scouts and the Girl Guides and religious orders setting up youth clubs for young people, the underlying framework, or the overarching framework, I should say, to these and to the reasons why this was being done, can often be said to be done from this character building functionalist model, that we were trying to take in young people and create a space where they could be helped to become young people that we want to see in society. So to shape them in a certain way and to have a particular view, particularly when we were talking about the church or some of the government supported spaces for youth work, that they would become upright and decent citizens, okay? So this is the functionalist character building model of youth work, okay? So another article that I'll put up on Moodle comes from David Tracy, and in his article, the key argument within his article is, do we use youth work, in particular in Ireland, his article is based in Ireland, for social change, or do we use it for social control, okay? And so he draws from these models of youth work, okay, to help explain his case, as you'll see. So he argues that in most cases, youth work in Ireland is practiced in ways that are conservative in orientation. And I don't know if Irish youth workers would agree or disagree with that, but that youth work, more often than not, is used in order to help young people become, to take part in society and look at what it means to be good citizens in an Irish society. So we can see that in things like, and I know this is specific to Ireland, but things like activities like Corlan and Oak, which we use. So that is facilitating young people. We're facilitating young people to be part of young committees and to have their say within a structure that we've already set up in society, and how they can be part of that structure, not necessarily critiquing that structure or looking for change in that structure, but being part of that structure, which is the structure of our government and how we run a democratic society within Ireland, okay? So just explain to others what Comhairle and Nóg is. So basically, like, it's a youth committee. So it's like mini versions of our Irish government that are set up around Ireland for young people, and it gives young people the opportunity to be part of committees that mirror what's going on in the Irish government, and they get an opportunity then to go up and visit the adult Irish government and give their say on what they think are the issues going on for young people in Irish society. So again, there's very positive things that happen from this, but it would also be seen as a very conservative model of youth work. So back to Tracy, he does this by looking at the role of youth work. So he puts forward this case of a lot of youth work in Ireland being very conservative, working from this functionalist perspective. And he does this by looking at the role of youth work and its relationships with the state through funding. So exactly what we're talking about with something like Comhairle and Nóg, with these youth committees that mirror what's happening in the bigger picture of Ireland. His discussion centres around youth work, looking at youth work as an agent of social control. So maintaining the structures we have and creating young people that will take part in that society, that will be citizens within that society, and be part of the structures that already exist. Or is youth work, or can youth work in Ireland, is there youth work in Ireland that actually contributes to social change? So drawing from those that radicalist and that critical social education models, is there youth work that happening with young people which makes them question these institutions and these structures in society and possibly look for them to be changed? So he also highlights the growth in the focus of problem young people. So that young people are being worked more and more, so young people who are seen as a problem, such as is the case with the Garda Justice projects. How do we help fix the problem? So they're a problem. Why are they a problem for society, okay? Why are they seen as a problem, and that they have to be took in and worked with in order to be able to be citizens or people that we think young people should be, okay? Remember again that young people are a particular way and are seen in a particular way, and if they don't account for themselves in the way that the adult and the already built society have set up, well, then they're seen as a problem, and we need to sort that out, okay? So early youth work. So Tracy says on this model of conservative youth work, early youth work set out to make all of society in its own image, with a rejection of industrialization and city life, and emphasize the outdoors and a particular idea of culture. So why do we think, again, really, this is, I suppose I'm asking you to think about this functionalist model and this conservative model, and if we work from this conservative model, this functionalist model, what are the particular ideas that already exist? And we looked at them already a few lectures ago. What are the ideas that already exist around how society should be? Do we buy into those ideas? Are we questioning ourselves? And is this influencing our model of youth work when we're working with young people and how we're working with them? So highlighting outdoors became not just setting, but the cause of positive developments in young men, scouts and brigades, and all that was worthwhile in society was modelled by the middle and upper classes. Okay, so back to this idea of, we have an idea of what the ideal society should be and could be, and this is what we're trying to instill in young people, okay? So, as we already talked about, 3 features, again drawn from this conservative model of early youth work, was that it was voluntary, an educational focus, and aimed exclusively at young people. And these are still relevant today, okay? So, and can be very much aligned to this conservative functionalist model, okay? Next, moving on to the personal development, which is framed under, this is a liberal perspective, okay? So this is slightly moving away from that conservative functionalist model that we're building future citizens for society that we have already set up. back to an actual focus on the young people. So this is about the particular young people themselves, facilitating the young person through their own self-development so they can build self-esteem, which allows them to take part in society and supports them to explore who they are and what they can do to contribute to how society is set up at that point. So you could see this liberal perspective as, you know, working with young people where they're at, which is what we do as youth workers. So working with young people and all young people around where they're at and what do they need in order to contribute. So it's sort of like taking a step back from this conservative functionalist perspective to just going, okay, so who is the young person that I'm working with? What do they need? And how could they find out a little bit more about themselves, which then can lead on to the next two models in the equation. Okay, so it's really just your work with the young people for who they are and who they try to find out to be, and this can lead on to then the next two models. So far, these first two perspectives see young people as fitting in and taking part and maintaining balance. And I suppose I'm just asking you, do you agree? Can you see this in some of your own work, that maybe we're buying into the idea of what society should be and creating young people to be part of that society? You're also possibly working with young people where they're at and just trying to, before you have an agenda around what they can do in society, you need to build that self-esteem, that personal development amongst them. So this leads us on to the next two, okay? So the critical social education model of youth work. Okay, so this looks at sort of the reformist. It looks at the young person, encouraging young people to ask questions about society. So not just accepting what's there or wanting to be part of what's already there, but questioning why things are there, why institutions are the way they are, why society is set up the way it is. So it's like when we were talking about critical social education, this model, when we apply it to working with young people and youth work, is about raising a consciousness about how society works. So why do we have a democratic government? Why do we have a particular government in place? So it's asking young people, it gets young people to begin to think about the role the young person has in society, and how they have power to make changes if they see reason to, okay? So where does the power exist? Sort of, again, drawing also from that conflict perspective. So where is the power? Do I have the power? Where does the power lie? And how can we change this balance of power and also resources that are there and not there? So things like getting young people to think about, okay, we have a democracy, but I don't have a vote in the democracy. And this debate that's going on at the moment within Ireland, in an Irish context anyway, about young people having the vote at 16, okay? So how can young people contribute, not only contribute, but contribute to change in society, and asking these questions. And finally, the radical social change, okay? So this looks at young people looking at structures which need to be radically changed, okay? That society cannot remain the way it is and is being run. And that there's a focus on structural inequality, going back to this conflict theory that Marx created, that there's a focus on structural inequality, and that is capitalist systems which are predominating and need to be gotten rid of, okay? Ignore the extra E there on the B, and need to be gotten rid of. So it's this look at, you know, there's a lot not working in society, and a lot of what is not working in society is because of the capitalist systems that's set up, because the power and the resources are all in one place or amongst a very few places. And how do we start changing society in a big way in order to redistribute these resources and this power, okay? So the youth worker, from this perspective, works from a radical view that there needs to be change, a complete overhaul within society, okay? And tries to work with young people around that, okay? So if you could just do the quiz that comes after this, and the next lecture we look at what youth workers do and how they do it, okay? And how we communicate what we do, which is often can be a big difficulty for when we're trying to explain what we do. But this is why we're trying to draw from these models, in order to articulate a little bit better to the outside world what we're doing and why. Thank you.